Chatter across the timeline right now is that Blueface has finally cracked wide open in the most public, most humiliating, most jaw-dropping way we have seen from him yet, and the whole thing unfolded live, on camera, with the children in the back seat and a father on the other end of the phone begging him to stop. Blueface didn't just have a bad night. Blueface didn't just get a little snappy. Blueface reportedly dragged Jaidyn Alexis through a live stream so brutal, so unhinged, and so publicly degrading that even his own community, the same community that has been defending Blueface for years, has finally stepped away from the table. Sis, that's a whole different frequency, because the man on that stream wasn't the Blueface we thought we knew. He was something else entirely. And by the end of the meltdown, the internet was no longer asking whether Blueface had a bad moment. The internet was asking whether Jaidyn Alexis was safe. Allegedly, Blueface valued the mother of his children at $5. Not 5,000. Not 500. 5. Actual. Dollars. And when Jaidyn asked him what he meant by that, Blueface reportedly doubled down, told her that's all she was worth, and turned the entire moment into a public devaluation of a woman who has stood beside Blueface through the courtrooms, through the Crazian rock chaos, through the prison stints, and through every single storm Blueface has walked her family into. You gotta sit with this, because this isn't a rumor floating in from some anonymous blog. This is Blueface. On his own stream. In front of his own son. In front of the internet. And in front of Jaidyn's father, who was watching the whole thing collapse in real time. The plot flips, though, because the moment Jaidyn's father saw what Blueface was doing on that live stream, he did what any father would do. He picked up the phone. He called his daughter. And he tried to intervene. And Blueface's response to that phone call? Blueface reportedly told Jaidyn, and I want you to really sit with this next line, Blueface reportedly told her not to bring her father into this because, and I'm quoting the vibe if not the exact syllables, that's how people end up dying. Sis. That is not a lyric. That is not a bar. That is a grown man threatening the father of the woman he shares a child with, on a live stream, while the child is in the back seat listening. Allegedly. Yes, allegedly. Allegedly. And once a line like that lands on a public stream, it doesn't get unheard. It doesn't get unclipped. It lives on the timeline forever, and it lives inside Superior's memory forever too. Now pause for a second, because before we get to the bipolar confession, before we get to the postpartum claim, before we get to the Crazian rock ghost that keeps showing up in this whole situation, let me lay out the geography of this meltdown. Blueface did this in a moving car. Blueface did this on a live stream. Blueface did this in front of his son Superior. Blueface did this on a public platform where thousands of viewers were watching in real time, dropping comments, taking screenshots, and clipping every second of it. Peep this, the entire event was engineered, whether Blueface meant to or not, for maximum exposure. Nothing about this was private. Nothing about this was accidental. And nothing about this is going to be forgotten. Because the internet has a very specific memory when it comes to a father belittling the mother of his children on livestream, and Blueface just wrote himself into that permanent record. The chatter kicked off the second Jaidyn made what should have been a completely normal streaming era question. She asked Blueface, on his own stream, how much she should charge to appear as a guest on somebody else's stream. That is the entire trigger. In a creator economy where every streaming era headliner from Kai Cenat to Aiden Ross to Sneeko books guests for 4 figures, 5 figures, sometimes 6 figures per appearance, Jaidyn wanted to know her rate. And instead of giving her a real number, instead of hyping his own partner, instead of doing what a functional co-parent would do, Blueface reportedly looked at Jaidyn on camera and said the number $5. 5. Blueface said 5. And then, in case anybody watching had somehow misheard, Blueface reportedly repeated it, $5, that's all you were, and let the number sit in the air like a slap. You know what makes this worse? Blueface didn't stop at 5. Blueface reportedly followed the $5 line with an accusation so vile, so out of pocket, so unprovoked, that even the chat went silent. Blueface, according to the live stream footage circulating right now, looked Jaidyn in her face and asked her if she smokes crack. Not once. Not softly. Blueface reportedly demanded, capital demanded, that Jaidyn look him in the eye and confirm or deny whether she smokes crack. And this is the same Blueface who has spent years positioning himself as the man who saved Jaidyn, who put a ring on her hand, who gave her the album, who claims to have made her career. Sis. The math is not mathing. Because the same Blueface who allegedly built Jaidyn up is now the same Blueface tearing her down for the price of a fast food meal, on a live stream, for content. Layer this in, the reason this whole meltdown detonated the way it did is because Jaidyn didn't fold. Jaidyn didn't cry on camera. Jaidyn didn't shrink. Jaidyn tried to defend herself, and every single time she opened her mouth, Blueface reportedly cut her down with another line more brutal than the last. Blueface brought up the shelter. Yes. The shelter. Blueface reportedly told Jaidyn, on camera, that she had been in a homeless shelter with her son before Blueface allegedly rescued her. And when Jaidyn tried to clarify that she was only in the shelter for a month and a half, Blueface reportedly used that timeline as ammunition to argue that her family didn't love her, that her father didn't love her, that nobody in Jaidyn's life had ever stepped up for her the way Blueface says he did. That is not an argument. That is a demolition. And Blueface reportedly ran it with a smile. Chatter across the timeline is now flagging this as one of the most emotionally violent moments any celebrity partner has been subjected to on a live stream in the entire streaming era. Because think about what Blueface is doing here. Blueface is taking the lowest moment in Jaidyn's life, a period of homelessness, a period she survived, a period she built herself back from, and Blueface is weaponizing it in real time to shame her in front of the internet. This isn't a diss track. This isn't a subtweet. This is Blueface using Jaidyn's trauma as a microphone to hit her with. And the worst part? He did it while their son Superior was in the car. There is no version of this story where Superior does not eventually find the clips. There is no version of this story where Superior does not eventually feel the weight of what his father said about his mother. Peep this next layer, because this is where the Crazian Rock ghost enters the chat. During the meltdown, Blueface reportedly threatened Jaidyn by telling her he could go run right back to what he called his second-string family. Second-string family. That is Blueface referring to Crazian Rock and their son Crazian Jr. as his backup roster. Blueface, in the middle of degrading Jaidyn, reportedly reminded Jaidyn that Crazian is one phone call away. Blueface reportedly used the existence of Crazian Rock and Crazian Jr. as an emotional weapon against Jaidyn, dangling the possibility that if Jaidyn didn't fall in line, Blueface would simply return to the Crazian Rock era. Sis. This is the man Jaidyn married. And this is the man reportedly reminding Jaidyn that Crazian Rock is his fallback plan. On a live stream. In front of their child. With the whole internet watching. Now pause, because Crazian Rock has been through this exact playbook. Crazian Rock has stood in Jaidyn's shoes. Crazian Rock was the one Blueface allegedly assaulted on camera, on live streams, in hotel lobbies, in parking lots, in front of paparazzi. Crazian Rock is the mother of Crazian Jr., a child born into one of the most publicly chaotic co-parenting arrangements the internet has ever documented. And Blueface, in the middle of this Jaidyn meltdown, reportedly reached back into the Crazian archive and used it as leverage. Crazian is not just a name Blueface dropped. Crazian is a threat Blueface deployed. Crazian is a weapon Blueface reached for. And Jaidyn heard every syllable of it. The plot flips again, because the moment Jaidyn's father called and tried to defuse the situation, Blueface reportedly escalated. Blueface reportedly told Jaidyn her father should have come and gotten her out of the shelter. Blueface reportedly told Jaidyn that no man in her life had ever protected her. Blueface reportedly told Jaidyn her father was irrelevant to their relationship. And when Jaidyn tried to hand the phone over so her father could speak, Blueface reportedly refused. This is a grown man refusing to speak to the father of the woman he calls his wife. This is a grown man using a father's phone call as fuel to humiliate a daughter. This is Blueface, and the receipts are on the timeline. Any father watching that live stream understood, in real time, that Jaidyn's father was doing the only thing a father can do from a distance, try, and be denied. Now here is where it gets darker. Because after Blueface reportedly hit Jaidyn with the $5 line, after Blueface reportedly hit her with the crack accusation, after Blueface reportedly hit her with the shelter mock, after Blueface reportedly hit her with the Crazian threat, Blueface did something almost nobody saw coming. Blueface reportedly turned to the camera, mid-meltdown, and diagnosed himself. On air. In real time. Blueface reportedly told the stream that he is bipolar. Blueface reportedly told the stream that he is going through postpartum depression. Blueface reportedly told the stream that his behavior, every threat, every insult, every degradation, was the product of a mental health crisis he is currently having on camera. And the timeline stopped scrolling to make sure everybody heard it. Wait for the punch, postpartum depression. Blueface, a grown man, claimed on his own live stream that he is experiencing postpartum. And look, mental health is real. Postpartum is real. Bipolar disorder is real. Nobody in the timeline is dismissing the reality of mental illness. What the timeline is dismissing is the specific timing, the specific placement, and the specific convenience of Blueface reaching for a mental health diagnosis at the exact moment his behavior was being clipped, screenshotted, and dragged across every corner of the internet. Blueface didn't announce a diagnosis in a documentary. Blueface didn't announce it in a sit-down interview. Blueface reportedly announced it inside the same livestream where he had just weaponized Jaidyn's homelessness against her. Sis. The timeline is not stupid. The chatter is now suggesting that Blueface bipolar and postpartum confession is the same tactic Blueface has reached for every single time the internet catches up to Blueface behavior. Blueface has been in the tabloids for years. Blueface has been in the courtrooms for years. Blueface has been in the meme cycle for years. And every single time, Blueface finds himself cornered by his own footage, Blueface reaches for a rebrand. Sometimes the rebrand is, I'm just being real. Sometimes the rebrand is, y'all don't understand my humor. Sometimes the rebrand is, I'm the villain of the internet. And this time, according to the live stream, the rebrand is, I'm mentally ill and you can't judge me for it. The problem is, this rebrand comes with a $5 receipt taped to it, and the internet is reading every line. You gotta sit with this. Blueface has now positioned himself as both the perpetrator of the meltdown and the primary victim of it. Blueface reportedly said on the live stream that he needed to go lock himself in a room somewhere. Blueface reportedly said he was in the middle of a postpartum crisis. Blueface reportedly said his snappy behavior was a symptom, not a choice. And the entire time Blueface was framing himself as the sufferer, Jaidyn was still sitting in that car, with their child, absorbing every insult Blueface had thrown at her while he was allegedly not himself. The narrative flip Blueface reportedly attempted in real time is one of the most brazen public image maneuvers the streaming era has ever documented. Layer this in, the receipts on this meltdown are not thin. The receipts are stacked. Thousands of viewers watched the live stream. Dozens of clip accounts documented the $5 exchange. Screenshots of the crack accusation are circulating across every gossip page. The shelter mock has its own timeline of reactions. The Krisian second string family line has its own segment on the biggest podcasts. The father of Jaidyn phone call has its own dedicated recap videos. And Blueface bipolar postpartum confession has been played, replayed, dissected, and duetted on TikTok until the algorithm itself is tired. Blueface can't walk this one back. Blueface can't say it was taken out of context. Blueface can't say it was edited. Because Blueface reportedly said all of it, on his own stream, on his own account, in front of his own son. But circling back, sis, here is where the Blueface story gets uncomfortable for the people who have defended Blueface for years. Because this isn't Blueface's first meltdown. This isn't Blueface's second meltdown. This isn't even Blueface's 10th meltdown. Blueface has a documented, publicly archived, receipt-heavy history of doing exactly this, publicly degrading the women closest to Blueface. Krisian Rock knows it. Jaidyn Alexis now clearly knows it. Blueface mother Carlisa knows it. Blueface own sisters know it. Blueface fanbase knows it. And every time, the internet responds with a fresh round of, he needs help. And every time, Blueface reportedly walks away with more followers, more streams, more headlines, and more ammunition for the next meltdown. That cycle has finally broken. Peep this next receipt. The reason Blueface's Jaidyn meltdown is landing differently is because Jaidyn is not Krisian. Jaidyn is the woman Blueface publicly built up as the chosen one. Jaidyn is the woman Blueface publicly proposed to. Jaidyn is the woman Blueface publicly branded as his forever. And Blueface just dragged that same woman, his forever, his chosen one, his wife, through the mud on a live stream over a $5 streaming rate. Sis, the internet is asking the same question over and over. If Blueface will do this to Jaidyn, the woman Blueface allegedly loves the most, what has Blueface been doing to Jaidyn off camera? Off live stream? Off record? Because whatever the answer is, it is worse than the live stream. It has to be. The plot flips again, because Blueface's mother Carlisa has been dragged into this too. Chatter across the timeline is now recirculating old clips of Carlisa allegedly targeting Chrisian Rock, allegedly pressuring Jaidyn, allegedly playing the two mothers of Blueface children against each other for content. And now, with the Jaidyn meltdown detonating in real time, viewers are asking whether Carlisa is going to weigh in, whether Carlisa is going to defend Blueface, whether Carlisa is going to double down, or whether Carlisa is going to, for once, step back and let Blueface face the consequences on Blueface's own. Because if Carlisa jumps in and defends Blueface's $5 line, Carlisa's own credibility is going to take the same hit Blueface's credibility just took. Now pause for a second, because there is a specific detail from the live stream that the timeline keeps circling back to, and I want to walk you through it slowly. Superior was in the car. Blueface's own son was in the car. Blueface's own son was in the back seat while Blueface was reportedly telling Superior's mother she was worth $5. Blueface's own son was in the back seat while Blueface was reportedly asking Superior's mother if she smokes crack. Blueface's own son was in the back seat while Blueface was reportedly mocking Superior's mother for having lived in a shelter. Superior heard all of it. Superior absorbed all of it. Superior is going to grow up and one day be able to search his own father's name and watch Blueface do this to his mother. Because trauma at that age doesn't disappear. It just files itself away and waits. Wait for the punch on this next one, because this is where Blueface's defense fully falls apart. Blueface reportedly, during the same live stream, tried to argue that Jaidyn is a bad mother because Jaidyn didn't wake up early enough to take Superior to school. Blueface reportedly said Jaidyn was still sleeping at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Blueface reportedly framed Jaidyn as neglectful, as lazy, as unfit. And Jaidyn's response? Jaidyn reportedly clarified she had been up through the night with their infant. Blueface reportedly ignored the clarification, kept the accusation on the record, and used it as further ammunition to argue Jaidyn didn't deserve the platform Blueface allegedly gave her. Sis, this is the exact same playbook Blueface allegedly ran on Chrisian. Same script. Same posture. Same weaponization of motherhood. Layer this in, Blueface's Jaidyn meltdown is being read now, by the biggest voices in the gossip ecosystem, as evidence of a Blueface pattern. Not a Blueface moment. A Blueface pattern. The kind of pattern that shows up in the courtroom. The kind of pattern that shows up in custody hearings. The kind of pattern that shows up in restraining orders. And Blueface, by putting all of it on a live stream, by narrating all of it on his own account, by broadcasting all of it in front of his son, has now built the strongest possible case against himself, without a single lawyer, journalist, or ex-partner having to say a word. Every future filing is going to be able to reach into this live stream and pull evidence out of it. And Blueface reportedly handed it over voluntarily. The chatter is now suggesting that Jaidyn is quietly starting to plan a way out. Chatter across the timeline is claiming that Jaidyn's silence on social media in the aftermath of the meltdown isn't peace. It's preparation. It's the specific kind of silence a woman goes into when the woman is done, when the woman is planning, when the woman is running the last of the paperwork. Whether that chatter is accurate, only Jaidyn knows. But the internet has watched this pattern before. The internet watched it with Chrisian Rock. The internet watched it with Karrueche Tran and Chris Brown. The internet has watched it 100 times. And the pattern always ends the same way. First the meltdown. Then the confession. Then the disappearance. Then the exit. Peep this though, because the timeline is not just going after Blueface. The timeline is now asking hard questions about the entire streaming culture Blueface is embedded in. Because Blueface is not the only streaming era headliner who has publicly detonated his relationship on a live stream. Blueface is not the only one who has used his own child as background for his own crash out. Blueface is not the only one who has reached for a mental health diagnosis mid-scandal to blunt the fallout. This meltdown is being read as a case study, a masterclass, in what happens when the platforms that made these creators reward the chaos more than they punish it. Blueface streams. Blueface trends. Blueface monetizes. And the platforms that host Blueface reportedly do nothing. The plot flips one more time, because within hours of the Blueface meltdown clipping across every corner of the internet, Blueface reportedly attempted a soft walk back. Not an apology. A walk back. Blueface reportedly offered a mock apology on the same live stream, half joking to Jaidyn's father, half laughing to Jaidyn, half blaming the bipolar diagnosis Blueface had just announced. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't accountability. It was, according to the timeline, a punchline. Blueface reportedly used the same tone that got him into the meltdown to try to talk his way out of it. And that is why the internet is not letting this one go. Because the walk back is worse than the meltdown. A real apology would have landed. A punchline confirmed the diagnosis of the diagnosis, convenience. You gotta sit with this. Blueface, in the span of a single live stream, reportedly devalued Jaidyn to $5, accused her of smoking crack, mocked her homelessness, threatened her father, invoked Christian rock as a fallback plan, diagnosed himself as bipolar, claimed postpartum depression, and then tried to laugh the whole thing off. That is not a meltdown. That is a documented sequence. That is a receipt scroll. That is the kind of live stream that ends careers, ends marriages, and ends the fanbase's ability to keep defending Blueface with a straight face. Sis. Blueface may not have realized it, but Blueface just ended the Blueface era in real time, on his own account, with the ring light still on. Chatter across the timeline is now flagging one more layer to this whole meltdown, a layer that changes how we read Blueface's bipolar confession entirely. Because Blueface reportedly did not consult a doctor before diagnosing himself on stream. Blueface reportedly did not check into a facility. Blueface reportedly did not take a break from the platform. Blueface, by his own admission, diagnosed himself. That is the exact phrase Blueface reportedly used. And that phrase alone is being used by the internet as proof that Blueface is not reaching for mental health support. Blueface is reaching for a shield. A shield that lets Blueface do what Blueface just did to Jaidyn without consequences. A shield the internet is not accepting. Because real mental health work is not announced on a stream. It is done in silence, with professionals, and it does not come with a live stream tip jar attached. Now pause, because this is where the Christian rock timeline re-enters. Christian rock has, for years, been publicly diagnosed by the internet in ways Christian rock never consented to. The same internet that watched Christian and Blueface fight in hotel lobbies is now watching Blueface stand on a live stream and self-diagnose in a way Christian rock never got the grace to. The double standard is not subtle. Christian rock was mocked. Blueface is being handed a diagnosis. Christian rock was memed. Blueface is being handed sympathy. And the same audience that clipped Christian's worst moments is now being asked to give Blueface the softest possible landing. The timeline sees the asymmetry, and the timeline is not playing along. Layer this in, Jaidyn Alexis has spent years being framed as the quiet one in the Blueface universe. Jaidyn didn't clap back the way Christian did. Jaidyn didn't headline chaos. Jaidyn stayed in the background, built the baddie record with Blueface, showed up for the co-parenting, took the ring, and largely let Blueface do the talking. And that is exactly why this specific meltdown is landing so hard. Because the woman Blueface reportedly humiliated on that live stream is the same woman the Blueface fanbase spent years calling, the calm one, the loyal one, the ride or die. If Blueface will do this to Jaidyn, the calm one, the loyal one, the ride or die, Blueface will do this to anybody. Sis. That is the sentence the internet is stuck on right now. And that sentence is closing every door Blueface used to walk through. Wait for the punch. The biggest gossip pages in the game have now placed Blueface on official watch. Meaning every future live stream, every future story post, every future clip is going to be documented against this meltdown as the baseline. Blueface no longer gets the benefit of the doubt. Blueface no longer gets the, he's just being Blueface, pass. Blueface no longer gets to laugh a crash out into content. Because the Jaidyn livestream is the receipt that the timeline will hold against Blueface for the rest of the Blueface era. And that receipt has a $5 stamp on it that Blueface reportedly put there himself. That stamp is not coming off. Peep this, Jaidyn Alexis has options right now that the internet is quietly reminding her exist. Jaidyn has family. Jaidyn has a father who called. Jaidyn has a career. Jaidyn has a fan base that showed up under every single clip to defend her. Jaidyn has documentation, hours of documentation, of Blueface on-record behavior. And Jaidyn has an entire lineage of women, from Christian rock to 1,000 other partners of streaming-era headliners, who have walked this exact path and come out on the other side. The Blueface era does not have to be Jaidyn's whole story. Chatter across the timeline is now openly rooting for Jaidyn's exit. And that shift in the room tone, is Blueface's biggest loss yet. The plot flips one final time, because Blueface reportedly does not seem to understand what he did. Blueface has continued streaming. Blueface has continued posting. Blueface has continued to act as if the livestream meltdown was a normal Tuesday. And that lack of awareness is what has the internet the most alarmed. Because a man who devalues the mother of his child to $5, on camera, in front of his son, and then continues streaming the next day as if nothing happened, is not a man having a mental health episode. That is a man who no longer understands the room he is in. That is a man whose relationship with reality has thinned. And Jaidyn, Superior, Chrisian Jr., and Chrisian Rock are all standing on the other side of that thinning. Watching. Documenting. Waiting. Peep this deeper layer, because the industry response to the Blueface meltdown is quietly telling its own story. Every single label rep, every single manager, every single publicist, every single brand deal that had Blueface's name attached to it is now reportedly reassessing. Because a $5 valuation of a black woman on a live stream is not a mistake that a brand can absorb quietly. That is the kind of quote that shows up in a brand safety report. That is the kind of quote that gets a name pulled from a marketing deck. That is the kind of quote that ends a partnership before the paperwork is even reviewed. And Blueface reportedly delivered it in one sentence, with a smile, in a moving car. The economic fallout on this one has not even begun to land yet. And once the fallout does land, Blueface is going to discover that the streaming era is not the mixtape era. In the mixtape era, a rapper could rebound from any scandal with a hot record. In the streaming era, a $5 clip lives forever, gets re-uploaded on 100 pages, and follows Blueface into every green room, every festival lineup, every brand pitch meeting for the rest of the Blueface career. You gotta sit with the emotional layer of what Jaidyn Alexis was navigating in real time on that live stream, because it deserves to be named. Jaidyn was in a moving car. Jaidyn was with her child. Jaidyn was on a live broadcast. Jaidyn was being verbally attacked. Jaidyn was on the phone with her father. Jaidyn was being told that she was worth $5 while thousands of strangers watched. And Jaidyn reportedly held her composure. Jaidyn reportedly did not scream. Jaidyn reportedly did not curse Blueface out on camera. Because Jaidyn reportedly understood that whatever she did on that live stream was going to be judged more harshly than what Blueface was doing to her. That is the double standard Jaidyn was navigating in real time. And she navigated it with a level of restraint that Blueface reportedly did not extend to her. Now pause, because there is a Chrisian Jr. angle to this whole story the timeline is not talking about enough. Chrisian Jr. exists. Chrisian Jr. is a child. Chrisian Jr. is Blueface's son. And every time Blueface reportedly invokes Chrisian Rock as a second-string family, Blueface is invoking Chrisian Jr. too. That means Blueface is publicly, on a live stream, framing his own child as a backup, as leverage, as a threat. Chrisian Jr. did not consent to being deployed as an emotional weapon against Jaidyn. Chrisian Jr. did not consent to being called second string. And Superior did not consent to being in the car when Chrisian Jr. was reduced to a bargaining chip. Both boys are casualties of the Blueface meltdown. Layer this in, the specific mechanics of the postpartum claim deserve a closer look, because Blueface is not the birthing parent. Postpartum depression, in its clinical definition, is a mood disorder that affects the birthing parent in the weeks and months after childbirth. Some partners can experience secondary postpartum symptoms, and that is a legitimate discussion in the mental health field. But Blueface reportedly did not frame his claim that way. Blueface reportedly claimed postpartum in a way that felt like it was borrowed. And the timeline picked up on it immediately. Because reaching for a diagnosis that belongs, primarily, to the woman Blueface was reportedly attacking on camera is not a mental health disclosure. That is a rhetorical maneuver. And the internet spotted the maneuver in seconds. Now pause, because the timeline is also quietly asking about the streaming platform hosting Blueface's meltdown, and what responsibility that platform carries. Because when a streamer of Blueface's size delivers a threat like, "That's how people die," on a live broadcast, when a streamer of Blueface's size accuses the mother of his child of smoking crack in front of the child, when a streamer of Blueface's size weaponizes a shelter stay on live footage, the platform hosting Blueface is not a neutral pipe. The platform is the broadcaster. And the broadcaster is going to have to answer for what the broadcaster allowed to reach thousands of viewers in real time. This is not just a Blueface accountability story anymore. This is a platform accountability story. Wait for the punch on this one. There are reportedly people close to Blueface who have been warning, off the record, for months that a meltdown of this scale was coming. The internet has heard whispers about erratic behavior. The internet has heard whispers about escalating outbursts. The internet has heard whispers about Jaidyn's inner circle asking her to step back from the relationship. Whether any of that is verifiable, the Jaidyn livestream just retroactively confirmed the vibe of every one of those whispers. Because a man does not deliver a $5 valuation of his wife on camera without 100 smaller escalations preceding it. Blueface reportedly telegraphed this meltdown for months. The live stream was just the moment the telegraph became a broadcast. Layer this in one more time, the Blueface story does not exist in a vacuum. The Blueface story is landing at a moment when the internet is finally treating public misogyny toward black women as a career-ending event rather than a promotional cycle. The rules that allowed a Blueface, a Chris Brown, a Kanye, and a dozen others to survive earlier scandals are no longer the operating rules of the culture. Jaidyn Alexis is being defended by a fanbase, a sisterhood, and a cultural moment that was not standing behind Chrisian rock the same way years ago. That is the shift. That is the reason this Blueface meltdown is going to land differently. And that is the reason Blueface reportedly cannot rebound the way Blueface rebounded from every previous scandal. The audience receiving this Blueface story is not the same audience Blueface trained. It is the audience that is finally trained to hold Blueface accountable. Now pause, because Blueface's own words on the live stream will be evidence in ways Blueface reportedly has not fully processed yet. Not just in the court of public opinion. In actual courts. Every family law attorney watching the meltdown is quietly noting the phrases Blueface delivered on stream. Every custody consultant is quietly cataloging the moments where Blueface reportedly used Superior as an audience. Every restraining order experienced advocate is quietly flagging the "that's how people die" line. Blueface built an evidentiary record against himself, on his own stream, and did it in one continuous take. That is not a meltdown. That is a deposition. And Blueface reportedly delivered it voluntarily. Peep this final receipt before we open the floor. The Jaidyn Alexis livestream is already being packaged, edited, and re-uploaded by dozens of independent creators as case study content. Reaction channels are dissecting it frame by frame. Podcast hosts are running full episodes on the $5 exchange. Culture writers are drafting long-form breakdowns of the bipolar and postpartum shield. Behavioral analysts are quietly citing it as a textbook example of on-camera devaluation. That means the Blueface meltdown is no longer just a moment on the timeline. It is now course material. It is now cultural evidence. It is now the specific clip that every future conversation about streaming-era misogyny is going to reference. Blueface reportedly authored that curriculum in one uninterrupted broadcast, in a moving car, with his son in the back seat and the ring light still on. So here is the question the internet is trying to answer right now, and I want the timeline to help me out with it. Is Blueface really having a mental health crisis on that live stream, and does that excuse the $5 line, the crack accusation, the shelter mock, the Chrisian threat, and the father confrontation, or is Blueface reaching for the bipolar postpartum defense as a shield to walk away from consequences Blueface earned in real time? Is Jaidyn Alexis quietly building an exit, or is Jaidyn still going to ride this out with Blueface the way Jaidyn has ridden out every previous storm? Is Chrisian rock going to weigh in on the second-string family line, or is Chrisian rock going to let Blueface trip over Blueface's own words? Is Carlisa going to publicly defend her son, or is Carlisa finally going to let Blueface answer for Blueface? And is the Blueface era officially over, or is Blueface about to reinvent Blueface for the 5th, 6th, 7th time? Drop your verdict in the comment section for me. Sis, I want to hear all of it. Every take. Every receipt. Every prediction. Because whatever happens next in the Blueface universe, one thing is already locked in: after the live stream, the meltdown, the confession, and the walk back, the internet is no longer wondering who Blueface really is. The internet already knows. And the internet is finally ready to act on the receipts.